Hello and welcome to this lecture on Adobe Illustrator by Eduonix Technologies. In this lecture we're going to be taking a look at, we're going to be building a city, and we're going to be using the perspective tool as we went over in the last two lessons. So if you haven't reviewed this and you want to do this tutorial smoothly and seamlessly, you're going to want to review that because I'm not going to be explaining too much of the perspective tool in this. We're just going to be using that and a lot of other stuff we've learned so far. As much as I can possibly fit in. This is a two-part tutorial, and in the end we're going to get a really cool result. So it's going to be a three-dimensional city perspective, two-point perspective. If you don't know what those look like, just look up two-point perspective city Illustrator. You'll see somebody else made with Illustrator. Or just zoom to the end and of the second video and you can see the final result. We're going to start off by going up to View, Perspective Grid, and Show Grid, or you can also click on the Perspective Grid tool, or hit Shift P. So I'm not going to go into how to set this up, but this is about the angle I want. I'd already set it up. So we're going to stick with this, and as you can see I have the symbols palette open. I'm going to put that over here in Appearance, or wherever. I suggest having a few panels open. We're going to get into those as we need them. Excuse me that way. To start out with though, we're going to need some shapes, and like I mentioned in previous videos, it's a good idea to create these ahead of time. So this is the final result we're going for. So this is going to go over the blend tool, a lot of other things. As you can see, it's a gray building with blue windows, and they have black outlines. And the door is a black outline, and it also has no line on the bottom to make it look flush. So we're going to do that to each of these, basically extend the windows across, perhaps, and make a door on all of them. So the first thing to do is we need to align this. You go up here, you see that they're on the align options pop up in the control panel. If they don't, you would just go over to window and down to align. You're going to hit this one. And with this, we're not going to need to align anything, but in the end we may need to. So in the last one you would hit horizontal align center if you're doing the exact same shapes. But to create these windows really fast, we're going to drag this down to where we want the bottom window to be. And you can go ahead and just create your door. I'm going to drag this over. And I'm holding on to one of the anchor points, making sure the whole thing is selected. I could also do that with the direct selection tool. And just drag it down, and the smart guides will tell me when it's in place. If they don't, all I need to do is zoom in. So there it told me. Now to transform this and keep it on the ground, we're going to need to start from the upper left side, and we're going to want the door to be a little bit bigger. And that tells us it's aligned to the center, although that's not necessary. So move the windows into a good position, and then we're going to use the blend tool. And after we've blended the two, have this one selected, we just hit the center of the window. And these are filled, they have a fill in them, which makes us able to do that. So we blended them. Now we're going to double click on the blend tool and specify the steps. Previous selected, so we can see a good number of windows. I'm just going to mouse wheel through these, and that looks good to me. So with this, I'm just going to hit the Alt key this time. Go hit O, and I'm going to hit X. So if you or interested in shortcuts for things you're going to do a lot, like expand, just Alt and then either FEOTSEVW, depending on which menu it's under. In this case, it's under Object, and it'll give you underline the letter that you can hit at that point. Just like export, it's a lot faster to do that than to go up to here and down to export. So anyway, I'll be moving ahead. I'm going to move this over here. Now, in this case, we want these to be aligned with this. So I'm going to take these and group them, and then because any two objects have to be grouped to act as one when you're aligning. And I'm going to select this and hit the same option. So now I'm going to ungroup these, Control-Shift-G, Command-Shift-G on a Mac. I'm going to go up here to Blend, and I'm going to do the same thing as I did on the other one. Go down to Specified Steps, and just scroll down my mouse wheel with Preview on until I get a nice number of these vertical kind of windows. So I'm going to hit OK. Control, or Alt, sorry, O, X. Alt-Ox to expand. I'm going to hit OK. So these should all be grouped together still, but so we don't want to do anything with those yet until we're done with everything. And with this one, just for a new approach, you don't want to go through the hassle of the blend tool. Simply just drag them out, and they're not going to be perfectly exact, but that's fine. Just use your eyeballs. And another thing you can do, if you're creating these and you get to the edge and there's a lot of space left, there wasn't in this one, there may be a hair, you can just edit this in case there's some space left, you can bring it in, or in case you need just a little bit more space like that, you can bring it out. And to select all these, you can just select the whole thing and then shift click the background and deselect that. So I have those now. I'm going to group them, select this, and then go up to horizontal align center up the control panel or on my align panel. Deselect the background, Control Shift G to ungroup. I just hit Control Z because I wanted to group them again. So now all these are made, and we can select this. Now if you watch the appearances tutorials, then you'll know that when you apply an appearance, like what I just did, color and gradient to these, and while I'm talking, I'm going to be getting these backgrounds. So using the eyedropper tool. When you apply it to a group and then you ungroup it, you lose the appearance. Well, as you can see, that doesn't count for color. So I'm going to bring these two up in the middle. Not like that. I'm going to hit the line right in the middle with the white arrow tool, selecting just the line, hold in shift, select the other one. I'm going to shift click up until I get to a good height for the door. And really all of these doors are too big, so I would be using transform each to fix them. Fix them all in place. I'm not going to do that. In fact, you don't even really need doors. Some of these can also be a little bit small. In the end, you should have a couple shapes like this. And we're only going to be doing 4 buildings, but we may repeat 1 or 2. So let's go ahead and group these all individually. Just select them, highlight over them with your tool, and then Control-Shift-G on all of them, because we're going to be regrouping them from scratch. So select the whole thing, Control-G, whole thing. Control G. And as you can see, our windows are disappearing, except on that one. And this one, whatever, it's not going to have a door. But you would just select with the direct selection tool, the white tool, and Control Shift left bracket to send it to the back, whereas Control Shift right bracket would send it to the front if you get any encounters like that with a group. So the next thing to do is make sure they're all grouped. I'm going to go ahead and put these all on the same layer. It appears they are on the same layer. This is actually a symbol right now, and you have to excuse me, my mouse is still double clicking a lot. The next step is to bring open your symbols palette. And before I make these into symbols, I'm going to take the buildings and I'm going to drag copy. It's Control Shift Alt, all the buttons. Drag a copy down. And one important note really quick is that I have the perspective tool up. You're going to want to turn that off to create your actual squares. I had my squares created ahead of time. So just so you know, or you're just going to have to hit 4 when you're creating the squares to create them in the flat, normal, no perspective. So I have 2 sets here. I'm just going to select them all and go up to Object. Edit, down to Edit Colors and Adjust Color Balance, because we're going to make these darker. So just hit black, send that down a little bit. 33 is appropriate. And the next thing I'm going to do with this tool is to get rid of the doors on these sides, because not all buildings have doors on every side. And perhaps a building that you didn't have a door on. Adjust things accordingly. You even switch some of these around. And why not something like that? Any building that you didn't have a door on, you might just want to go ahead and put one on, because that's going to be on the other side. So I've created 2 sets of buildings. They correspond to each other, as you can see. And if you can guess, one of these is going to be the dark side and one's going to be the light side. So I'm going to begin to turn these into symbols by dragging them over here. And then I'm going to be naming them. So it's also important to note that I'm choosing graphic, and I am giving them a name because I'm going to make this symbols palette look like the name mode looks, because it's helpful to see the names, because we're going to be matching them up. So I've created my symbols by dragging these on and to the symbols palette, and you can rename these if you want. But I'm going to start out with a dark and a light, and let's make the light hitting in this direction. So I'm going to take my light symbol, I named it 1 because it corresponds with the other one that's dark. And I'm just going to drag it onto here and Shift V, bring up the perspective tool. And as you can see, it locks nicely into the front. We're going to be using this to create our city. So with the light one in place, you're going to take the corresponding dark one, drag it from the palette, and you're going to start dragging down here at the bottom edge. Hit 1 to put it on the left side. And if you're doing this in reverse, you need to hit the other buttons. You can do this. You don't have to start on the right side like I did. Sometimes it's advantageous to start on the other, but you want this to lock into one of these grid points generally, unless you don't mind a little bit of unevenness. So with this one in place, keep in mind I can slide it just by sliding it with the perspective selection tool. With this one I have to hold in 5. And I'm going to bring it down to where the dark one is. And essentially the dark one is where I left where I wanted this light one to be, since the light one is the one that I have to move with the 5 key. So always making sure you have your perspective selection tool. Just drag it up here, and it should come really close to locking in. If it doesn't, you can just get in real close and do it there manually. Now, I'm going to create a lot of buildings in this fashion, and they're going to be in different places. So let's just do one more real quick. So what I did is I created two different ones. I made sure they're the same height by aligning them. One thing I wanted to note, when you drag these off, they're going to be symbols still. And you could just be using shapes, but it's nice to have them all right here just so you can work. Now you can keep them as symbols, that has its advantages, or you can, when you drag them off, right click and go break link to symbol. And then you're going to want to group those together again, so hit Control G. So I did that to these two, and I'm going to start dragging them onto the grid. Let's move this one down a while. And after you snapped it into this line, just hold it, and it'll snap into these vertical lines. It's a two-part snapping process. I'm going to repeat this. I'm going to make this dark side over here, pressing in 1. And I'm going to lock that in and move it, holding in 5. And you can press 5 at any time. So I'm going to draw out a bunch of those, and you should do the same, because in the end we're going to add a few other things to show you some more tools, perspective mode, and make some little streets and whatnot. So go ahead and set them out. They don't have to be perfectly even along the sides, although that is kind of generally the idea. So once you get rid of this perspective tool, it's not going to matter anymore what side of the fence they were on. So thanks for watching, and the next video, make sure you watch that. That's the continuation of this. And I'm going to have all my buildings set up. So at the beginning of that video, you can see how I have them set up, and if you want to set them up similar, that's fine. But we're going to be doing all of these. So in between, make sure you set up all of these.